All right, let's dive right in. We're going to deconstruct one of the most intimidating tactics you'll face in chess, the all-out pawn storm. By the end of this, you're not just going to stop fearing it, you're going to start systematically punishing it. Let's get to it.
You know this feeling, right? Your opponent just starts shoving pawns down the board at you, and bam, your pulse just skyrockets. It feels chaotic, almost violent, and it's totally overwhelming. And that's the point. It's a psychological attack meant to make you panic.
So what's your first instinct? It's to fall back, right? To react defensively to every single pawn push. Well, that's exactly what your opponent is hoping for. Today, we're going to completely rewire that response. You're going to learn how to punish it and how to do it with precision. Okay, the big shift in your thinking starts right here. You have to stop seeing a flank attack as some terrifying threat. Instead, I want you to see it for what it is, a strategic gift. The right response isn't to build a wall on the side of the board. It's to light a fire right in the center.
You know, it all boils down to the simple geometry of the board. An attack on the flank, it's slow. It takes move after move to build any real momentum. But a central breakthrough, that is a direct shot to the heart of their position. While your opponent is wasting time on the edge of the world, you are seizing the most critical territory on the board.
So how do we actually do this? Let's break down the exact mechanics. This is how you turn their aggression into your winning advantage. Pay close attention because this is where games are won and lost.
First off, you got to understand the cost of what they're doing. Every time your opponent pushes a wing pawn, h4, g4, they are spending a tempo. That's a whole move they could have used to develop a knight or a bishop. So what's really happening? You are gaining time. You're getting a lead in development. They're trading real piece activity for a threat that takes forever to materialize.
Next up, let's talk about hooks. A pawn storm is only dangerous if it has something to hit, something to break open. A pawn on h6, for example, is a perfect hook. It's a target for their g-pawn to smash into. So one of the most powerful things you can do to shut down an attack is, well, nothing. Don't give them hooks. Let their pawns march into empty space where they just become weak and overextended. And this brings us to your primary weapon, opening the center. While they're busy messing around on the flank, their king is usually sitting there totally neglected. Your goal is to use your d-pawn and your e-pawn to just blast the center wide open. This creates massive highways for your rooks and bishops to get a direct line to their king, who's often trapped behind his own pawns. Now, all of this builds up to a concept that truly separates the good players from the beginners. It's not just about what moves you make, it's about the speed of your threat versus the speed of theirs.
You have to ask yourself this question every single time you're facing a pawn storm. Don't just react. Stop. Think. Calculate. If I ignore their h4, h5 push for just one move, and instead I play a move like d5, which threat is actually more dangerous? Which one lands first?
I mean, look at the difference in mindset. The beginner sees a pawn coming and immediately thinks, oh no, I have to save my piece, and they retreat, they go on the defensive. The master sees that same pawn push and thinks, perfect, time to strike, and they hit back hard in the center. They don't solve the problem, they create a much bigger one for their opponent. You have to be the one dictating the fight.
This is so important. You have permission to ignore their attack. It's all about the relative value of time. A pawn move is slow. It rarely creates an immediate tactical crisis you have to solve right now. But your essential break, the one that unleashes all your developed pieces, that is almost always faster and way, way more deadly.
Okay, now that we know what to do, let's make it stick by looking at the 3 most common and totally disastrous mistakes people make in these spots.
First, whatever you do, do not mirror their play. If they play h4, playing h5 is almost always a terrible mistake. You're literally creating the hook they need to make their attack work. Second, don't panic and lock up the center. That just kills your counterplay dead in its tracks. And third, stop moving your powerful pieces to weird passive squares just to block a single pawn. Your pieces are for attacking, not for babysitting.
Let this one really sink in. When the center is all locked up and your pieces can't move through it, the player attacking on the wing can do whatever they want with absolutely zero risk. You've just handed them their dream scenario. You have to keep the center fluid and tense, so your counterattack is always a live threat. So theory is great, but how do you actually make this a part of your game? Here's a clear, simple plan you can use to start implementing these ideas right away. Step 1.
Go back through your old games. Find the ones where you got steamrolled by a pawn storm. I guarantee you the engine will point out a moment where a central pawn break was the best move. 2. In your next few games, make a rule for yourself. Make 2 constructive central moves before you even let yourself react to their wing attack. And finally, go on Lichess or chess.com, search for puzzles about defending a kingside attack, and look for the solutions that aren't about defending, they're about finding the killer counterattack.
So, I'll leave you with this one question. The next time your opponent starts mindlessly pushing those pawns at you, what are you going to see? Are you going to see that terrifying wave of wood coming to crush you? Or are you going to see a strategic gift, an imbalance, a clear invitation to launch your own much faster attack and win the game? The choice is yours.